Hello my friends, 𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵 here, and today we're going to talk about dual factioning, why you should do it, and how to fix it if you're not doing it. And I do mean fix. If you haven't dual factioned, your life is way harder than it needs to be. I've kind of left a lot of my missions for the day that relate to faction. I can go ahead and pick that one up. That relate to my mining for the factions here, so you can see what we get from it. I haven't even started to go out and blow up my faction hostiles yet today. But we're going to go ahead and get into why you should dual faction. It is super important because your dailies that you get, the ships that you have to blow up, and how much ore you need are based on your faction's reputation level. So for me, Federation, I'm just shy of the 1 million mark, where you'll get some new dailies. So it's not just in consort you get this all the way. There's a low consort and a high consort. Once you cross about the 1 million range, then you get into the high consort missions, and your dailies will actually get a little bit harder in difficulty. So, and then same thing for the Klingon. I keep them pretty close, and they're actually a little further away than I like them, so I'll probably go blow up some Federation to get this evened out as soon as I can. So your dailies, the fact that you can keep them manageable, both your mining and your daily faction ships that you have to blow up, because you will get reputation for one and lose half of that amount of reputation for another one. So what you end up doing is you're actually getting half the reputation each day for the two that you're pushing, which is fantastic. It will slowly let you creep up to that next range so that you can actually stay a little lower and reap the benefits of all of these points every day, so you can open this last chest that's super important way more often, which we can go ahead and do now that I've got this video going. So if you want to see this here before we get into it, we've got a bunch of Federation points, not a bunch, 2,000 is not a crap load, but it's decent. So we get 2,000 here, but we lose 1,000 with our Klingons. Then we're going to do the same thing with Klingons, get 2,000, lose 1,000 there. So you net 1,000 each one on each one of these, which is not bad. We'll slowly creep up. Let's go ahead and open all these, and then it should make this way easier to get this last chest. That was like 100 points real quick. Bam, last chest ready to go, and look at all these dailies we have left. We have all sorts of dailies that we can keep doing, which we will. We're going to go ahead and do them anyways, because these level 31 Federation things here, these speed ups, this is 30-minute repair speed up. I get 12 of them for this one. This is one of the main reasons that I would say, even if you don't really care about the rep with another one to dual faction anyways, is you can play this game. You can't play it if your ships are in the shop and you don't have a way to get them out. So you see here, that's 2 that I have that give me 12, so it's 24 30-minute speed ups. So that's 12 hours worth of repair speed ups so far. And then we go to the smaller ones, they've got 8 instead of 12. So we'll get another 16 there. So it's crazy. That's 8 more hours. So what, 20 hours worth of repair speed ups that you get from doing these. And the best part about these Federation or Romulan faction ships is the Romulan, right? So I'm Klingon, I'm Federation. So if I want to go ahead and do this quest, it's the exact same amount of work for me to do these 2 missions every day as it would be for me to do one if I go focus on my Romulan faction ships. If I just go out and blow up Romulans, then I do both sets of these with the same amount of work that I would do with one set every single day. And it helps keep everything a lot more manageable. I get 2 sets of faction officers I can work on at once. I've got twice as many options when it comes to the ships that I want to build. It's pretty amazing to do your dual factions. So again, you get 2 crews simultaneously. If you end up doing dual faction, you get a bunch of repair speed ups that let you, if you're trying to bust a base up, if you got a war going on, whatever you're doing, you're going to need those. And then twice as many mining dailies, if you just saw those there, to help keep you motivated to get the really important materials. That is one of the main reasons I went with Klingon. I like Gorkon, and I do like a lot of the Klingon ships, even though they're really all over the place when it comes to strength, but you need that crystal. And the motivation every single day to have to go get that crystal is pretty substantial when it comes to your overall growth in the game, because crystal is going to bottleneck you more than anything, because so much stuff needs it. Your uncommon crystal especially, because you can't use this platinum to get it. So now we talked about why you should do dual factioning. Let's go ahead and circle around. If you've messed up and you are way ahead in one and there's another one you want to, but it's way in the negative, I did this. I pushed Federation extremely hard in the beginning because I wanted the morale crew, and I like the ships and all sorts of other stuff. And my Klingon was about negative. It was like 120,000 in the negative, and it wasn't good. It was not cool. I started to outpace my dailies back then, and what I would say is the best thing you can do, especially early on, once you start getting faction Sorry, I click everything when it comes up. I've got some OCD or something. One of the best things you can do, come in here to your missions, use this archive feature. If you didn't know you could archive, you can archive. So here, this is you can look when you're in your missions, this is a Federation mission. It'll probably give you Federation reputation if you get it. So the thing with your missions and not your dailies is that you get a really big chunk for the mission or the faction that you're doing, and you get an even bigger chunk negative for one of the other ones. So if you really need to even it out, if my Federation was getting way behind my Klingons, I go do this mission real quick, and that'll help kind of balance it. You got to really pay attention though. What I would recommend if you're not way off on your stuff, here, we're going to archive these. I archive almost all of my faction missions, unless I can get them all done around the same time. If I have 2 missions for different factions that give the same amount of rep net, and I need one of the, it's really complicated, but I would put these away until later, until you need that rep for one thing or another if something gets way out of line, or if it's your 3rd reputation or your 3rd faction specifically, always archive those and never go back until you've blocked out your other ones. So if you look at my archive, there's a bunch of these Romulan missions that are in here, and you want to save those because they're going to help you get out of the hole way faster to where you can start doing those dailies when you want to build them back up. So when I first started this game, I saw these rewards, they looked great, and I just did every single mission that came up, and it really messed me up. You can't do that. You really have to have a long-term plan in the game. So what I would do now, every time you get a faction mission, archive it. Archive it immediately so it's not in here junking up your stuff, and then once you notice that your factions are a little out of line or whatever, then you go and you do the faction missions to bump it up. Or if you've got 2 really close, then make sure that you're staggering them, keeping them pretty even, because once you cross this threshold, this is the threshold I've got coming up. Once I cross the 1 million mark, my missions get, my daily missions, it gets a little bit more difficult, but the rep level changes a bunch. So if I were to move, and I've done this once before, so if I were to move my Klingons across that threshold a day or 2 before Federation should do it, it's actually going to almost neutralize my Federation. It's going to get stuck there because I'm going to get way more from my Klingons, that half amount that I'm reducing from my Federation, and then doing my daily Federation, it's really going to even out, and I'm barely going to move forward at all. So you're really going to try to, within the same day, you want to cross any one of those thresholds at the same time. It's a lot to keep up with, but your life is much easier as long as you just keep an eye on where these numbers are every day, and you go farm those faction hostiles. So speaking of, when you are way ahead with the Federation, how I got my Klingon out of the gutter is I went and killed a bunch of both Romulan traders and Federation traders. Federation traders are easier because you don't have bounty hunters on you. But I did that. Other things that I did were I completely neglected my Federation dailies every single day, even if, and it's hard, even if it kept me from getting this chest. I know, it's crazy, because this chest is one of the most important things that you get. But if you really want to fix your dual faction, you have to neglect that if that's what it takes. If you can't do all your other ones, then give up on it for a couple days, a week, whatever it takes. Do not go forward with the faction that you're way ahead with that's keeping you from being able to dual faction. You have to actually let it come back down so that they can even out. You want that one to kind of come down that you're way ahead of while you're building up your negative one, and they're going to kind of meet, not necessarily halfway, but meet halfway, so that you can keep them pretty even from that point onwards. So that's one of the big things you can do. Another big thing that you really need to do that will either, if you are dual faction successful already or not, on your daily events. If you're not successful yet, do not, under any circumstances, join your, if I was way ahead of Klingon and have everything else negative, you can't do these quests anymore. You can't do these events every single day, because that is a bunch of reputation that you get, positive and negative, and it will completely undermine everything you're doing. So, and here's the thing. If it takes you 2 weeks, I hope it doesn't take you 2 weeks, but you need to start fixing it today if you're not dual factioning, of not being able to join this and missing out on everything that's happening here. As much as that stinks, it's going to keep you from getting way outpaced on your dailies every day. And it's going to get you in this position I'm in now, where what I do every single day, instead of not doing any, is I go join Klingon and I go join Federation, right? And they help keep each other nice and even every time that I do this. So it's the exact same points because we're at that same threshold too. So if you see my max here is 16.8k with the Klingons, and I go to the Federation 16.8k. You know what that means is, if I spend these resources every single day, both of these get credit for the exact same amount of resources spent. So I'm doing twice as much with half, or with the same amount every single day. So that is the trade-off, is that you have to suffer short term to pull yourself into a position where you can get all these benefits that are absolutely worth it. I thought, man, there's no way this is going to be worth it, when all I did was neglect my Federation stuff forever. My crew stalled out. I wasn't able to level up my officers. It was awful, and I really hated it. For about 8 or 9 days, I did these tips, right? I went and pulled out any of my Klingon quests that I had archived already. Whoops, let's go get my Botany Bay before somebody goes and nukes it for being 0. So I found any of my Klingon quests that were already archived, or missions that were archived, pulled them out, tried to go ahead and push those as far as I could. That would help me get further with the Klingons and reduce where I was with my Federation. I would go kill a bunch of Romulans, which is great because that gives you way more Klingon rep, but the issue is it also gives you a little bit of Federation rep. So I also had to sit there and go kill some Federation every now and again to kind of even it out. But as soon as you get to where you can start doing daily missions for your second faction, your life gets a bunch easier. You can pass through that quite a bit faster. That doesn't mean that you can, as soon as this is in the positive, I can go ahead and start doing my other dailies. You have to wait until you are even with both of them. If you're not even reputation with both of them, then you're going to put yourself right back in that position when you pick up on, say, your Fed over your Klingon. It's going to go ahead and push your Klingon back into the negative. You're going to be right back where you were. Don't do that. You have to get these numbers pretty close to even. And I'd say within about 5% or whatever your number is, but keep an eye on where your thresholds are and don't cross them unless you cross them both at the same time, same 24-hour period, so that you can have the next day's dailies reset and be on the same level. That's the gist of it. Life's a lot easier if you dual faction. You're going to enjoy it a lot more. I think it's the way that it was meant to be played. Since you are an independent, you shouldn't be just thrown in completely on one side, or they would have made every player you pick a faction right off the bat and you stay with that one forever, and it's your faction. The fact that they let you move around kind of lets you embrace this independent persona where you can play both sides of a conflict, or all 3 sides once you get far enough. I think it's the way it was meant, especially when you look at how the repair speed ups go, because this game is almost impossible if you can't go ahead and push a repair speed up to get your ship back out there while you have some free time to do something. So those are my tips. Hopefully that it will help you. Leave some comments if it does help you. If you have some critiques, I can always take some constructive criticism. If you're just mad today and want to vent at somebody, I'm not that guy. I'll block you. So live long and prosper, friends. As always, I hope this has helped you, and I'll catch you on the next one.